Hey guys, this is Jeff from Shock Surplus here. We just had a customer recently buy Bilstein 6112s for the front of the 3rd Gen Tacoma, 5160s, and Icon 3-leaf Add-A-Leaf for the rear of the 3rd Gen Tacoma. This is a TRD off-road, so he was looking to upgrade from Bilstein 4600s that come factory on the TRD off-road models. He is going to be doing a little bit of overlanding, and he is going to have a rooftop tent, so he wanted something that's going to be a little more comfortable off-road and also be able to support the extra weight of the bed rack and the rooftop tent for the times he is off-road. So we're going to walk you through on how to get everything installed on your truck. Alright, so starting off on the front of the truck, first thing you're going to want to do is jack the truck up and put it on some jack stands. You want to make sure that the jack stands are on the strongest part of the truck, which is going to be on the frame rails here. From there, we can get the wheels and tires removed, and we're going to have to take the skid plate off first, and then we're going to disconnect the sway bars, and then we'll walk you through those steps. All right, now that we got the truck up on jack stands, we can get to removing the skid plate. Now he does have the factory option TRD skid plate. To get this one off, you're just gonna need a 12 millimeter. Move these two 12 millimeter bolts here, and these four 17 millimeter bolts up here. All right, now that we got the skid plate removed, we have a little bit more room to get the sway bar out of the way. We do this by using a 17 millimeter bolt, unbolting this sway bar end link from the spindle, and then from there we can smooth the sway bar just so that it's out of the way and allows us a little bit of clearance to get the old strut assembly out.
All right, to get the sway bar off, you'll need to remove there's going to be four 14 millimeter bolts, 2 on this side and then 2 on the other side.
Now that you got the sway bar out of the way, end link disconnected, you've moved the sway bar bracket. The next step is going to be remove the 10 millimeter bolt up here and a 12 millimeter bolt down here. This is to get the ABS line and the brake line out of the way, just to make sure that you don't stretch them or ruin them in any way. Once you get your ABS and your brake line brackets removed, you'll want to remove this tie rod. To do so, you'll want to use needle nose pliers, straighten out this nut retainer clip, and then from here, you'll be able to use a 17 millimeter to take the nut off. So you want to take your 19 and zip it off. You get the tie rod removed. What you can do is take a hammer. You can hit this part, and usually that's enough to get the tie rod out. Or what you can do is we like to use the tie rod separator. It makes it simple and easy to get that tie rod off. And just slip it on, and then slide it on here, and then you just use your socket to get that broken. All right, the next thing that you'll want to do is get your 19 millimeter socket. Remove this nut off of the lower eyelet mount on the strut assembly. You'll want to either use some type of punch or a screwdriver. Knock this bolt out. Once you get this lower mount off, you may have some room to push the control arm down and slide this out, the strut assembly out. If you don't have enough room, you just take a 22 millimeter socket, take it to your control arms, and you'll want to mark your location of your cam adjusters, which we have done already, and you'll want to loosen the control arm mounts. And you want to do the back side as well. Doing this relieves some of the tension that's in the bushings, allowing you to push the to be able to push the lower control arm a little bit further and out of the way. To get the top mounts out, there's going to be 3 14mm nuts, 2 here and one directly behind here. You'll want to remove 2 and leave 1 on, just to prevent the strut from falling out completely. Now, as you're getting ready to get the last nut off of the top mount, you want to be sure to support the strut with your other hand so that it doesn't fall out on you. Once that last nut is removed, you're now able to remove the strut assembly. Now you're going to want to take the 6112. Make sure you have the top bolts, or the top holes lined up to match up with the top mounts. While you're supporting the 6112 assembly with one hand, you'll want to thread on one of the nuts so that you have something to keep the assembly from falling out on you. All right, once you get the top mount in place, you're gonna want to push down on the lower control arm and slide that bolt into place. And you take your washer and your nut. Once you get your lower mount put together, you'll want to connect your tie rod to the spindle. Take the castle nut. And torque this down with a 19mm. And you'll want to replace the cotter pin. Once you have the tie rod in place, take your 14mm socket and torque down the top mounts. You're gonna want to put back your ABS bracket, as well as your brake line and ABS bracket down here. Now, if you had to loosen your lower control arm bolts, you want to make sure to not torque those down until the truck is back on the ground on its own weight. Now, to get the sway bar brackets back on, simply put the sway bar back in place here and then slide that in and get that lightly threaded on. Alright, so we got the 6112s installed on the front. Now it's time to work on the back. We're going to put on the 5160s and the Icon add-a-leaf. Alright, so we got the rear of the truck jacked up on jack stands, and then we have the axle supported by a jack. First thing we're going to do is we're going to remove the shocks. We're going to use a 14mm wrench up at the top, 17mm socket down at the bottom. When we remove this shock, it'll give us access to the leaf springs. Once we get to the leaf springs, we then install the add a leaf from Icon. We'll walk you through that. Now when you take the bolt off, you do want to be careful because this shock is what's holding the axle up in there. This is the reason why we have the axle supported by the jack. To remove the old shocks, you'll want to use a 14mm wrench and a pair of pliers to hold the stem of the shock to prevent it from spinning while you loosen it with your wrench. Once you get the top nut off, you'll be able to remove the washer and you'll then be able to pull the shock out. Alright guys, small change of plans. We're not going to be doing the add a leaf anymore. What we're going to do is we're just going to go ahead and install the shocks. Tools you're going to need is going to be Allen keys for the reservoir mount right here. A 17mm socket for the lower mounts, and then for the upper mount you're going to use an 18mm socket. The bushing stack, when you put the bushing stack on the rear mount, you're going to put this washer here. You're going to put one bushing, this thinner washer on top of this bushing, and then the frame will go here, and you'll put this bushing and then this washer on the top. This plate is going to go on the back of the frame. This mount, you're going to put it in this hole right here. The back driver's side shock does come with a brake line bracket relocation. What this does is it moves the brake line bracket a little bit higher up off of the axle so that you have a little bit more droop travel without overextending the brake lines. All right, guys. So that about wraps up the install for the 6112s and the 5160s. We ended up not going with the add a leaf. Customer decided he wanted to stick a little bit closer to the factory height, but we have the 6112s on the factory settings, and then we put on the 5160s in the rear. If you have any questions or you're looking to buy this for your own truck, feel free to give us a call.